The only way to hide your wrinkles is to get one of those Instagram filters.
Yeah, if we could get one that I could project, from my consciousness, so that's what everybody saw.
Yeah, I
would.
You look at some of these Instagram. What do you call them?
The influencers.
Yeah, no. The Instagram used to be pictures, but now it's like videos.
Right.
There's a word for that. Those videos.
And the word is?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but anyway,
videos.
No, but people who put those filters on, they don't look human.
No, and
they look
never
like there's
do.
something really weird going on with the face.
Yeah, it looks like CGI or something, and I see them. They post these all the time.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, do you think anybody is fooled and goes, "Oh wow, they have the most perfect features of all"? It looks like live, anime. It's just so disingenuous. I mean, I don't know.
The whole thing is so meta though, because there's this whole subset of videos that people make. They're called reels.
Yes, reels.
Okay, so there's this whole subset of reels that people make showing what they actually look like without the makeup on. So
that's awesome.
I don't know. Have you ever heard of this woman, Celeste Barber?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so she's she's probably in her early 40s. Just sort of a regular looking human being, right? Like
nice.
Anybody. But what she does, and her claim to she became extremely internet famous, Instagram famous, because she makes a reel and she shows a supermodel dancing around in their house and making these weird motions, and then they cut to her and then she's doing it, but she's like a normal looking human. So the juxtaposition, it's fucking hilarious, because some of these you think these models just lounge around all day, wiping their brow, and then she sits there and does it, and it's hilarious. Celeste Barber, I'll put a link in the show notes for that. You got to check that out. It's hilarious.
They have video filters just like the picture ones, I think, because sometimes I
see. I can never find them though, because
it's hard to tell.
I've been looking because I make a couple reels, but no one's going to watch a reel for a 54-year-old man.
For real,
yeah.
Unless you had a really good filter that made you look like a 16 or 18-year-old.
I don't want to look like
gymnast.
a 16-year-old gymnast. No, that's we could go somewhere there.
Yeah.
So, is it time to begin? This has been so long.
Yeah.
I feel like we say that every show now.
It's been so long. Yeah, we were hoping that we were just talking about this. We said, why did we think we'd have more time when school started?
When the kids are back in school, we'll have more time to do the show.
Will even itself out. And
I got it. Okay, go ahead.
Wishful thinking.
Just begin.
And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about two middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Nat X.
And I'm Michael.
And boy, do we have a show for you. Today on RMA, it's the triumphant return of the one, the only, the great G Money Smooth, a.k.a. Grant Boyken, the editor-at-large of the RMA newsroom. And we discuss the latest attempt by the government to fund treating the opioid epidemic. All this and more today on a very special edition of RMA.
Welcome back to the basement.
Welcome back.
You notice I cleaned the laundry off the couch for you.
I was about to say it, then I put my laundry on the couch. But it's very nice. The lizards are resting comfortably, and their worms slightly to the right, positions just so I can stare at the mega worms.
We'll have to turn the camera around.
Yeah, you guys have to see these worms.
Mega worm?
Mega. Isn't that what you called them?
Yeah.
The big ones.
I'm sorry, I'm reaching for a mega worm joke.
Oh, no.
You're always looking at a mega worm when you're looking over here.
Keep your hands off my mega worm.
Hey, Nat,
Yes.
do you know who we have to thank today?
Who?
Our Patreon members.
I agree.
It's our Patreon members that make it possible for us to do this show. RMA is a listener-supported podcast, and if you enjoy listening to the podcast and would like to help us support it, here's what you can do. What can they do, Nat?
Here's what you can do.
You can join our Patreon page at patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages.
Members.
Once you join at any level, Nat will send you the secret code to unlock the Discord server.
Yes.
You can join in the community of like-minded people who discuss their lives and their recovery in a private forum. Members also help to participate in the making of the show.
That's right.
Don't they?
Absolutely. We rely on you for content. No, it's great, though. I love it.
It's great. It's like an Ouroboros, right?
eating the tail.
Yeah, because they pay us a couple bucks a month, and then we plumb them for content.
Yeah.
We feed back to them that they pay us a couple of bucks a month.
It's just
amazing.
fun. It's very masturbatory. I love it.
Well, I don't, maybe that's what you do on there. Is there a separate comment stream for that?
We're all jacking each other off. It's great.
Yes.
But it's a lot of fun, guys, and it's a real chance for us to get to know you and for you to get to know the other monksters and just to support. And it's just really great to see everybody leaning on each other. And, there's a Wordle thread.
Yeah.
For all the Wordle weirdos out there, there is a Wordle thread. And it's just a great time. And I forgot to we take a picture at the beginning of our sessions to post there.
Members get previews of new. Sorry, I'm smiling.
And there you go. And that
I don't
picture,
like that picture.
That's not a good one. All right, ready? Okay.
Members get previews of new show material. They get videos of interviews, behind-the-scenes outtakes. And after a few months of membership, you also get a nice little gift as a thank you for supporting the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
buttons.
Yeah. Anyway, so shit's been happening, man. So we had to take a week off last week. Last week was our week that we were supposed to do the show.
Yeah.
But all kinds of shit went down last week, right? I mean...
Yeah, but I forgot. I have something really important to say.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Welcome to all the monksters listening stateside, around the world, down the street, across the table, and right next door. Welcome all. Settle in, buckle up, and get ready for excitement, comedy, tragedy, intrigue, mystery, and so much more. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found. I was thinking that we were going to get our recovery meetings back up and running. I think we had them on Sundays, but let's keep the juices flowing. I think we're going to get to a point. Are we still trying to move it to Wednesday, or?
God, Wednesday would be. I can do a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I guess, in the evening.
So we do have support meetings. It's been a little light.
Just not currently.
Not currently. But that's something
you're
that
on your own, people. Find your own support.
If you want to send in your story, send it to Mike R. at middleagesrecovery.com for details. Will great reviews be read on the air?
Great reviews will be read on the air. And if you leave them on the Apple Podcast app, that would be fantastic because that's where they are.
I just remembered something.
You did?
Yeah, it's good. I'll save it for life update.
Okay. Yeah, I got a life update thing that I can't forget to do either.
Writing the show as we go, folks.
You can tell us your story. Log on to middleagesrecovery.com, which is our website, or you can call the RMA hotline at 516-888-6297.
What's that number again?
516-888-6297. No one is standing by. You can leave your message in obscurity. We won't use your name. We'll just abbreviate you.
And
somehow.
If you leave us a message that we use in the show, there's a free gift.
There is?
Yeah.
What are you going to send?
We got all these awesome shirts nobody's buying.
Yeah.
But they're
it helps
really nice.
if you're an extra large person.
The triple X. Those are great.
Yeah.
It's
See,
very comfy.
behind us, actually, I'm not recording this, so they can't see anything.
Well, Patreon members do get access to the video shows. And or if you just ask nicely, I'll send you a link on the slide. No, that's not true. You have to join Patreon.
Or not. I don't really care.
But we do have some reviews.
Yeah, we do. So PS says, love this podcast. This was they were both 5-star reviews.
Yes.
Right? I love this podcast. The guys are very humorous and informative. I love to hear their stories, and they're so down to earth. Also, I love the guests they have on the show. They don't think they have many women listeners. Really? Did we not think that?
We may have said that early on.
Oh.
But we found out later, just for you, that there's actually probably more women listening than men. Not that it matters, because we're all one, aren't we?
Yes, in a metaphysical sense.
Yes.
They don't think they have many women listeners. This may be true. But as a woman listener, I really enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work, and I miss you when you take breaks from the podcast.
Well, I miss you too.
I miss you too, Nat, when we take breaks, because I don't see you anymore.
I know.
What are you eating over there?
It's not a nicotine mint.
So you're just going to chew mints into the microphone?
I have it neatly tucked under my tongue.
Okay. Listen, if that is what gets you off of the
vape,
the vape stick, whatever you call that.
See that, guys?
Take your mints.
My Nicoderm. Nicorette. There you go.
So we got another one.
Another one.
Other one.
Yes. The next one is from Far Out Wow. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Okay. And they say, it's got that dopey feel. I dig it. This podcast reminds me of the Dopey podcast in the sense that it's not a cookie-cutter recovery podcast where it's just a modified 12-step speaker meeting, where it's a guest telling their story of how they got started.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Yeah, we
Too many of those out there.
We decided early on we didn't want that.
No.
Then gloss over how it was fun, what happened, and then what it's like now. Thank God that this isn't that. It's like hanging out with two friends talking about addiction and recovery.
Yeah.
Not 12-step exclusive, and equally important, not. Oh, yeah.
Not 12-step.
I like that.
Right.
Many non-12-step podcasts, the majority of the time, saying how non-12-step they are and just lose everything they may have had going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good observation. RMA is another breath of fresh air in the recovery podcast community. Come get to know the guys with me.
Come get to know the guys.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed. It's the perfect mix of war stories and recovery. Subscribe. Thank you so much. You're like a great hype man or hype woman.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a big thing for us when we were doing this podcast. We were like, we definitely didn't want to do the experience, strength, and hope thing.
No, fuck that.
Which is
I have no experience, zero strength, and very little hope.
That may be a problem with your recovery. But, I mean, and that's the formula typically. If you guys know, if you've been in 12-step and you've been asked to share, they usually say, you can say whatever you want, but you share your experience, what happened, your strength, how you got through it, and your hope, how you are now. And, yeah, so we don't do that.
Wait, is that too not 12-step?
And then so thank you so much for that. We also have a Discord comment and response.
Yeah, so this was interesting.
The Patreon Discord.
The Patreon Discord. Somebody logged on there about a week ago and posted a little, a question, a call out, a request for some support, and it got me. It's such a like an. An elemental thing that everybody who is in the early stages of recovery has to deal with. That it got me to be thinking that we've been doing this for how long now? A couple of years.
I think it's 2 years.
We both have a little time put together, and we sort of, sometimes you forget what it's like in the early days. Where you have that thing, that monster that lives inside you that's just constantly telling you to go out there and get fucked up. And simple stuff like. Meat and potatoes, bread and butter issues like how to navigate parties and events where sobriety seems more like you're depriving yourself rather than, it's a good thing. And it's hard to trust yourself in social situations. So our friend A from the Discord community says, hey, all, back from a non-sober hiatus. Thanks, Melissa, for encouraging me to get back on here. I am sober today, but coming to you all for accountability for tomorrow. Heading to a big fundraiser tomorrow night. The first hour is cocktail hour. The booze will be flowing, and they're even driving everyone because they don't want people drinking and driving. I so badly want to stay sober and also enjoy it. And as somebody pointed out in a response to this, anytime that they're hiring a bus to transport you somewhere, someone is going to throw up on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Because you see the bus, you realize you don't have to drive. You don't
You're
have to worry about it.
yeah.
It's like the fucking take the chains off, going balls to the wall, right? It is tough. That first work thing is terrifying, especially if like the group of people that you work with on a day-to-day basis know you as a drinker, and know themselves as drinkers, and
they expect it out of you if they don't. Like the pandemic, you're coming back, and Mike had to deal with this, and it's it's like you got to do a rebrand.
You do.
It's a rebrand.
You have to rebrand, and sometimes that means going late, leaving early, driving yourself rather than taking the booze bus. But there's a lot of little things you can do, right? Like, first thing you can do is when you get there, put something in your hand that's not alcoholic. Yeah.
I actually just had this experience, and it was exactly, my, what I always tell people. I actually had to go to a show. I'll talk about it in the life update, but it was amazing that I was in this bar watching a band, and I had that conversation with my wife that I hadn't had with her in a very long time because I haven't needed to.
Yeah.
But for some reason on this night, we were talking about it before we went out because she was like, are you going to be okay? I mean, it's a bar. And I'm like, it made me start to think about it.
Right.
I'm like, she goes, yeah, we used to make a plan and everything. Should we do that? Are you going to be okay? I said, Yeah, she hadn't said anything like that to me in a long time, but I was glad she did because I feel like I've been getting too much, like I'm just trying to put it in the background.
Right.
That could be a dangerous thing, and it's gotten many people before. So I think it's good for us to continue to, still act like you're making a plan and you're being very conscientious about how you feel in those situations.
I absolutely agree. And I was at a work thing recently out in Portland, and I don't know, I'll just slip it in here instead of during the life thing. So I was putting this reception together.
Is that Grant?
Hold on.
Wait, sorry guys. Is Grant in the green room? There he is.
He's in the green room.
I am.
But I think he's out of the green room.
Well, we didn't introduce him and have fireworks and confetti.
No,
and stuff.
not yet. Well, you know what?
Keep going, guys.
All right, let's just pretend like we didn't see him.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get back to it in a minute.
We'll be
so it was funny, so there's this industry group that I deal with once a year out in Portland, and they have their annual conference. But so my company puts together the reception, so it kind of falls on me to pick the food and the drinks and everything. So I'm in this weird position where I'm having to sort of select bottles of wine, and since it's Oregon, it's all Pinot Noirs, and I'm going through this list with the party planner that we have at our company, and I'm like, can you just pick the wine? I'm like, I really would rather not.
Didn't you start thinking about what you used to like?
Yeah.
Do you have the Chateauneuf du Pape?
I mean, I could definitely pick wine. Like I can, I don't have to drink it to pick it, but I just prefer not to. But one thing I reiterated a couple times is I want to make sure there's some alcohol-free beers there because
sometimes you like that.
I'm like maybe people will take that option. Maybe they will have the alcohol-free beer. So I mentioned it a couple of times, and up to the point where she was finally like, Mike, we're going to have alcohol-free beers there. I was like, okay, good. So I show up to the reception and I walk in and there's a huge tub full of Athletic Brewing
the
IPAs and all different kinds. And I'm looking at this tub and I'm looking around the room and I'm like, there's got to be at most 30 people here and probably twice as many non-alcoholic beers.
So they got a ton of it.
So I pulled one out and I had one. Yeah. That's all I had.
And there was 2 dozen or something.
I don't know what happened to those at the end of the night, but my only guess is that the people who are stocking the bar assume that people drink non-alcoholic beers the same way they drink regular beers. Right.
But you didn't, when you were drinking, and you saw, I'll speak for myself, I used to almost be offended by the sight of a non-alcoholic beer.
Yes.
Get out of my face.
Right.
What are you doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
But, and I would have found non-alcoholic beers to be extremely helpful to me in the early stages when I started going to these conferences, and I had to sort of pretend that my ginger ale was scotch and, all that kind of bullshit that I don't do anymore, but that I did then.
Yeah, when you're still a little bit embarrassed.
Right.
Because you're afraid. I'm just moving my chair around. Wait.
In constant motion.
I know.
This is the camera.
I don't think
over here.
So we got to move over.
You got to move over.
Grant wants to look into my eyes when we speak to him.
But you can't look at him over there. You got to look at him in there. Yeah, that's the webcam. Don't ask me why I did that. The resolution's slightly better.
Okay, fine.
Okay. All right.
So parties.
So yes. So in this case, there was a non-alcoholic option that I made available for myself, but you don't often have that opportunity, right? I mean, you're not, and the early receptions that I went to for work, there was never non-alcoholic beer. Yeah. The most I would get would be a soda out of the soda gun, and it tasted like shit. Whatever.
It's definitely more popular now. I mean, there's more of a resurgence. I've seen way more non-alcoholic beer ads, and I see it more often.
But when you get there, the first thing you should do is put a drink in your hand that doesn't have booze in it. And then keep refilling that thing. Go to the bar, refill it 100 times.
Yeah, I drank 6 Shirley Temples at the Jimmy Eat World show I went to last week. Nice. It's really good.
6 Shirley Temples?
Yeah.
Did you sleep that night?
No, but I have diabetes.
Sugar. Yeah, I was going to say.
It was good.
So anyway, advice was given to our friend on Discord. And, I said, don't worry, you'll get it. And she said, thanks. I sometimes wonder if I'll ever get this thing to stick. I haven't had 30 days sober in the last 20 years. And I really identify with that. My record is 29 days, but that was a decade ago. I recently started medication, though, so hopefully I'll be able to make it stick.
Huh. What kind of medication?
Doesn't say, but I'm sure we could ask. So I shared my experience
strength and hope.
that was me for years on end, and that eventually it does stick if you stick with it.
Yeah,
right?
it does stick. And I remember thinking
we
stick, but I remember thinking when I was in that mindset, will I ever get it? Will I ever cross that line where I'm finally free? And I really didn't think it would ever happen, but I could say that I definitely don't feel that same way today.
No.
And it can happen. I think, like you said, we say all the time, it's different for everybody. But the most important thing is just don't give up.
Right.
You
keep coming back.
You have a drink, keep coming back. You have a drink, you relapse, whatever. Just stand up. It's not about how you fall down. It's how you get up.
Right. And how many times you get up. Because you can keep getting up.
And you get more experience. Right. You do more research. You're wiser.
But you know what? At some point, you gather all the facts that you can.
Right.
And then you're just repeating yourself.
Right.
So, at some point, you have to make the commitment,
Yeah, it should
but
happen.
You can do it.
Keep doing the work and sticking with your sober buddies.
I found, though, at the end, and my takeaway from this whole experience was, and it's only recently that I've really started feeling this, is that at some point when I started going to these events, it started reinforcing my sobriety rather than challenging it.
Because it was like working muscles.
Yeah,
that's how I used to think.
But I would go there and I would be validated in my decision. Because I was looking at everybody else. I was knowing what they were going to feel like the next morning, sitting there trying to string a sentence together in the tell us what your favorite movie is bullshit, And I went home and I slept and I felt great. And I was like, I can't believe I did this for so many years.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to do. And I remember when I was first trying to get sober, I think it was a sponsor or someone else, and they said, just one time, this is before I was going to be this is way long ago. And he told me, he goes, you go to the bar tonight, because I was headed to the bar to drink. He said, just don't drink till 11 o'clock. 12 o'clock, and just watch what happens. Watch the way people change, and it'll change the way. Now, of course, it took me a long time to make it.
How'd you make
long.
It to 11 o'clock? I could never do that.
I didn't that weekend, that's for sure. But it's true, though. And now you see it every time you go out, and it's just, you're disgusted, because part of it is when I see that, I'm just seeing myself.
Yeah.
So really, I'm not so much disgusted with the person, but really myself, because that's the way I was.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm disgusted. I just I find myself feeling really bad for people that are still on that roller coaster.
Yeah, but you don't want to be too condescending. I mean,
no, of course not.
People can enjoy themselves,
not
and it's really up to them. So keep at it.
I have an idea. Why don't we bring Grant in for the life update part, and we can find out what his life has been up to. But before we do that. Yeah. I have an issue with the camera. You
want to come right back after these words?
Yeah, sure.
And we'll be right back after these words.
Okay, so welcome back to the podcast. That's weird. I never say that. And we're back.
We're back.
Welcome back to the podcast. Tonight we're joined by Grant Boyken. You all know Grant, right?
You know him
G-Money
as
Smooth.
G-Money Smooth, the editor at large of the RMA Newsroom.
OG monkster.
Yeah.
One of the first. I apologize for the technical snafus, but I'm a lawyer and
now you
he's the CEO, and this is fucking equipment. I don't know how it works. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
And is the intro going to be on this? We're joined by the great Grant Boyken, finally back to do he's got silverliningsplaybook.com. And he's the guy that does all the news. We call him the editor at large of the RMA Newsroom.
Yes, that's a good title.
Money Smooth, who's also pretty active on the Discord. And welcome back, Grant. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm not here to talk about my experience, strength, and hope. I was listening a little bit on the green room earlier. So
yeah, just
great to be back. I think I was here about a year ago when I shared I'd been a couple times since then, but to share my story, and it feels a lot different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to? All kinds of things, I know.
Yeah. I don't know where you want to start.
Are we just going to do it open-ended like that?
Well, like, what have you been up to? And just sit and wait. Like, okay.
We're gonna go get a Pepsi.
Well, this is
Well, so this is the portion of the show where traditionally Nat and I will discuss what's been going on in our lives, and we figured we'd invite you in to do the same. So this is, and then we can get into the stuff that you've been doing with respect to, Soberlink and Shatterproof and Sober Linings Playbook and all that kind of stuff. Does that sound like a good plan?
That sounds great.
I hope so, because it's the only plan we have. So what have you been up to,
me.
Nat?
Well, all kinds of things. It's been a few weeks, as many of you know, and there's been a lot of action and excitement in Oyster Bay here.
Yeah.
Yep, just giving out the town. We do that all the time, though. It's nobody comes and looks for us.
Yeah, no. Everybody knows where we live.
That's right. I had an opportunity to take my youngest son, Max, to what used to be the Cub Dad Weekend, which is, there's a Cub Scout camp out east on Long Island, Camp Wowie Pecs. It's not called that anymore. I don't know why.
No, it's Shift. We call it Shift Scout Shift. Reservation.
But it was supposed to be an overnight, and I was really excited to take Max on this trip, and Noah got COVID, and my wife was on a spa weekend. So once a year she goes out with her friends and they get spa treatments, and she was away for a few days. So we had to do just the day. So we did 10 hours at Shift and drove back, but it was a lot of fun. Besides the dead deer at the side of the path, everything was perfect.
Wow. You remember the last time you and I were at Shift?
I do. Was that with the drunk dads and stuff?
Yeah, it was with the drunk dads and stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, though, and it's really meaningful to just be doing that with him. I did it with Noah. My father took me, and it's just nice to see it. He's really into it, and it was a good time. We were fishing. We were out there for, 30 minutes, and Max is getting all frustrated, and I said, that's why they call it fishing, not catching.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you're still doing the Cub Scouts too. And
no, I'm not.
You're not?
Ben has withdrawn from scouting, and he went to summer camp this summer and did not have the greatest time in the world. I had a much better time than he did.
Yeah, I remember you guys went away for a bit.
Yeah, I get to hang out with a bunch of dads and hike around the lake and stuff.
That's
and
great.
Shoot guns and stuff. It was great. But he's decided to move on to other things. So it's kind of weird because the scouting had become my social thing in town. I don't do anything.
Yeah, you were.
I don't go out with.
That's how I met you. I think, isn't it?
So I'm in the middle of a bit of an adjustment period right now, where I'm kind of wondering.
Well, you could still volunteer as a non-parent adult.
Yeah,
that would be creepy.
No, that's just.
You sure?
I don't like the optics of that.
And is this one of your kids? No, I'm just here for the scouting.
Yeah, I'm here for the hot dogs.
You're sick, and I hope you never get better.
So, so Ben was having. I just got to squeeze this one in. Ben was. So he was having a little trouble with some bullies at school. Speaking of hot dogs, okay. So I have had a discussion with Ben, as with all my kids, that said, it's okay to be gay. Gay is not a bad word.
Yeah.
Et cetera and so on. But some kids have been calling him gay at school. Yes. So I was like, Ben, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with being gay. He's like, but I'm not gay. And I'm like, okay. So you need to think of something to say to come back at them with.
Right.
And he's like, I got it. He goes, I'm going to say, I'm as straight as the pole your mom was dancing on last night. I was like, that's good, but just be prepared to fight after that.
Is it the older kids at the high school? Because Noah and Ben, our kids, 7th graders are now in the high school building.
Yes. With
12th graders who drive Camaros, smoke cigarettes, and have beards.
Yeah, it's weird.
And so it's a little nerve-wracking. And I was worried about what kind of bullying, but is it the older kids getting them?
No, he's had some trouble with some kids in his grade.
Yeah, I probably know exactly who they are, too, because Noah gets it for being short and being different, and So he was reporting, and I always tell him, like, what do you tell a kid? I said, you got to tell me. I said, you don't have to hit them, but you should say something immediately.
You don't have to hit them, but
no, you can't. I'm not going to blame you if you do, but it's you think in this day and age that the
school isn't really.
They're not on top of things.
They're not.
And
there's. I could tell you a story, but off the air.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's a difference with California, but my kids' experience in high school, everybody was sort of gender and sexuality fluid.
Everybody's
and
gay
it was
in
fine.
California.
Everybody was, it wasn't like the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's California, right? I mean,
here in our specific town, it leans a little more conservative than some of the other towns around here. So there is a lot of that.
There was a Trump parade.
Yes.
Of pickup trucks. I couldn't believe it. I said, we're on the North Shore of Long Island,
right.
you know? What? So it's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting.
Right. But, so I don't know. That's I think he's dealing with it. I think the fact that he has lunch with Noah and his friend Ben every day during the same lunch period is a big
that's good.
Help for him. But, it's an adjustment because it's a new school.
Yeah.
They're going from teacher to teacher to teacher.
Yeah.
It's just like a whole thing. I look at him and I was very insecure and I got picked on a lot when I was his age. And so I feel for the kid, but
it sucks.
Yeah.
I was the kid that vanished. I just wasn't, I felt like I was just not there. I didn't get picked on and I wasn't like, nobody said my name. I just kind of like, and once in a while when I would get, singled out, it freaked me out. I'm like, they can see me. I'm like, oh crap.
That magic ring is not working.
No, it's not. And but I think overall for Noah, because he's extremely, he has ADHD, not to the point where it's debilitating, but he needs to move, kind of like me. I'm always moving around, doing 6 things at the same time. And I thought the high school would be better just because sitting in one place for the whole day is a nightmare for him.
Yeah. I actually think that Ben prefers this to last. Yeah. He had a lot more trouble last year to the point where I had to actually yell at the principal and make vague legal threats.
Yeah, I did the same. Yeah. Is that at the last school?
Yes.
Yeah, I used the word assault a couple of times.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So he's adjusting, but it's a big adjustment, right? It's they're 12 and 11, and they were going to school with 17-year-olds. It's crazy.
And he wants to watch Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why, but so what's this college weekend booze parties with college kids and parents?
So I went up to visit my older son.
Oh yeah,
at
how's he
the
doing?
University of Scranton. He's okay. He's not like out partying, but he's also not like making a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Like, he's having a hard time, and apparently it's not just him. Like there's a lot of kids of his generation that have spent so much time in the room and communicating over video game consoles that it's hard for them to sort of break out and make friends. And if you add the last 2 years of COVID on top of that,
right,
it's like it's hard. So I don't know. I'm hoping he finds his center. But we went there and we were driving around with him, and he was saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, this is where all the parties are. Like there's usually a whole bunch of red Solo cups on the front lawn every Saturday morning, but because it's parents' weekend, they've cleaned it up." But one thing I noticed as it got later in the day is a lot of parents were going to these off-campus houses, like to parties. Like there's kegs on the
parents?
Yeah, the kegs on the porch and everything, and it's parents' weekend, and the parents are just coming and grabbing cups and filling up and like just joining in the thing.
Wow.
And I wondered to myself, like if I was the same person that I was, before I quit drinking, like would I have been like, "Where's your keg, son? How come we're not filling up the cups?" And
I wonder about that. I think I would, because my father, he wasn't like, "Let's get drunk," but he really would take the beer and he'd smell it, and
a ritual.
Yeah, and he loved it. He would drink it. He goes, it's like mother's milk. And me and my brother would always gag, mother's milk. But, I was thinking someday I'll have that drink with my son, and I'll creep him out by saying it's like mother's milk, and it'll be great. And maybe I would have been that guy that went to the college party,
Well, describing like alcohol as mother's milk is like really weird.
Yeah,
right.
My father is strange,
but they make a stout called Mother's Milk or something. Yeah.
Gonna buy that for him.
Yeah,
he's gonna crack up.
That was one of the last things I had to drink.
And,
so, what's going on the West Coast there, Grant? How's your life going?
Well, I can speak for myself. My wife is out of town. She went to a work thing in San Francisco. So, and I'm rarely home alone, but I'm at 2 years, so I'm feeling pretty good. But I've been occupying my time, busy with work, and wrote to my son yesterday. He goes to college about 30 miles away, and went out to meet with him and walk around a little bit at the Arboretum at his campus at UC Davis.
Oh, that's cool.
He's in this transition time. He's in the last year of school, not sure what he wants to do afterwards. Thinks it all matters. The decisions he makes now matter, so much later on. And he's had a tough college career, as many people have, because it was marked by the pandemic starting his freshman year.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really nice time to go. He never, teenagers, although he's 21, it's hard to get them to do stuff with you. But I called, must have just hit the right moment. We went for a walk, talked, had coffee afterwards. So that was great. And I'm actually going to see my daughter this weekend. She's out in Massachusetts, where she goes to college. And I've got a work event, a charity walk in Boston. So she's going to join me for that. So it's like a twofer.
That's so
and
cool.
my oldest, by the way, is Max. I keep meaning to tell you
Oh,
that.
really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
See that? Great minds.
name.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is your son, is his peer group, are they like drinkers? Like, is he into that party scene at school that you know of?
Yeah. The party scene disappeared. They all went home, and
That's right.
And we're remote. So he was in his apartment his second year. And he drinks. He's been pretty open, and, he shared when they smoked weed during high school, and, of course he doesn't share everything, but I think he's pretty open with me because I'm open about my stuff. Mm-hmm. But, he's been in engineering and had sort of a side thing, a engineering group project for a couple of years that kept him really busy.
Yeah.
So, he's missed out, for good and bad, on a lot of the social aspects of college, including the heavy drinking, I think.
Yeah, and kids were robbed. I think a lot of, like, even my little Max, he went through first and second grade, wearing a mask and being from home, and and the college kids, I didn't even think of that because I just have the little kids, but yeah, they really miss like that college experience, but it may be a good thing, like, they didn't get into the binge drinking and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just a shame.
It's because I have really competing feelings inside me about my son, like my older son, because he spent a lot of the first 2 years before the pandemic in high school smoking a lot of weed, drinking a lot, and then that all ended, and then it never came back. It's like he aged out of it almost, and now he just sort of looks at it with like a disdain almost, which is so weird, considering how into it he was in the beginning. And maybe this is just a performance for me. I don't know, but on the other side, like, he's missing a lot of the social component. I mean, he's not an engineering major, right? He's a history major, so he's got a lot of free time. Like, he doesn't have any big projects that he needs to do.
Sociology here, so
yeah, same here, right?
English
major.
major.
It was easy to kind of, you could always throw together some bullshit in the sociology paper, but and I just wonder, like, if this whole COVID thing has really socially stunted like a whole generation of kids,
But I got to tell you, there's a solution. I've got I'm on a parent Facebook group for for my daughter's school. I don't know if she wants me to tell the name, but it's funny when you read on there, my Jimmy is a transfer student. He's having a hard time meeting people. Could somebody give suggestions? It's maybe that's common. Maybe it's nothing to do with the pandemic, and it's just a shift in parent involvement in kids. But once a week, I send a funny parent post to my kids so we can kind of chuckle at that. But there probably is something like that. So, Mike, if you're concerned about your kid connecting at college, maybe there's a way parent to parent you can help that.
Yeah, there is a parent Facebook group, and other parents have posted similar things, girls and boys. So it's at first we were thinking it was just him, which was alarming me, but now it's more of a, so do I want him out like at parties every night? No, like, am I happier that he's in his room, like doing his schoolwork and handing in his assignments? Yes. But I also like don't want him to be a hermit, and, and I'm trying to like, I'm trying to show him by by what I do, like I still go out, not a lot, but you can go out and not party.
Yeah.
There's other things that you can do other than just attach yourself to a keg or go to the bar and drink until you fall down.
Right. And that's so important. Like what Grant was just saying about being open with your kids about it, to a point that you're comfortable. But I'm the same way with Noah. I mean, he's fully aware that I deliberately don't drink, because I was drinking too much. That's as much as he knows. But he sees me going out, and he's sort of like, he'll be my wingman when we're at a party or something. There's a lot of drinking, and I'll grab my Coca-Cola, and I'll say, "You see that? That guy's drunk. What a schmuck. And I have fun, and he gets to see how Dad, goes out and has a blast and doesn't get blasted. And I think that's important for kids to see. And I think the fact that you're honest with the kids, I think it goes a long way. And it was important to get over the fear. And we were just talking, Grant, about when we first tried to stop drinking and how we were almost afraid to admit, by having a glass so it looks like scotch. And, it was this fear I had of not wanting to, I'd have to tell my whole story, and you don't. And then the more comfortable you get, like you said, you just don't care. I'll drink water all day and say, no, I'm an alcoholic. You know what I mean? And it's good for them to see that and see that you can have fun and be sociable.
I mean, who?
And my kids are older, so I probably shared more, and they've seen some stuff. Yeah. Because all my dark time happened when they were in college and late in high school. And, one thing that I've never wished that on anybody, but I think the one thing it shows them is that you can go through the hard shit and come through it and learn about yourself and move on. So that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah. Who was it that said you would worry much less about what other people think of you if you knew how little they think of you?
Yeah.
Hey, we should do a new podcast called 3 Dope Dads. I just got that idea. I'm going to write it down.
Right. By the URL.
That's good.
In all of your spare time.
Yeah, right. I need another day in the week.
So I want to move on. I want to get into what Grant's been doing lately. But Nat,
yes,
I need you to talk a little bit about, and I think you need to talk a little bit about what on earth is going on with your work.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oy vey. So I've been very, very busy, and I don't know how much I should say. It basically, everybody knows I got this job where I was the director of an IME company, where I was basically hired to turn the company around or clean up a lot of the mishigas. Now I just say a lot of Yiddish now because I work with all these Jewish doctors.
Well, it's Rosh Hashanah this week. So.
Yes, L'Shana Tova.
Yes,
and
back at you, buddy. Yeah.
And so it was just been a very harrowing experience. And every single day there, towards the beginning, it was chaotic. It's still a little chaotic, but long and short of it is we finally gotten to a place where we just kind of agreed, myself and the owner, that I can't do this anymore. I was in such a dark place this one day. I was like, because I knew that the way it was, it just could not continue that way. And I was pretty much saying to the owner, I said, listen, Mike, I can't do this. I said, this isn't going to work. I think you have to close your doors. I was like, you got to close this company. We're not making payroll this week. You're not going to cut another check from whatever to keep it afloat. We got to close. And so he was like, wait, maybe we don't have to close. And the long and short of it is, I opened my own company that is going to basically kind of take over after this company folds. And so the last few weeks, and I'm the owner of that company. So it's like trying to transition, convince the doctors that, you're going to stick with me.
Yeah.
All of the different locations. I have to close a couple of offices, because the rent is crazy. And just all this stuff. At the same time, I'm still trying to run the business, the books, everything. And also to grow the business and to move the business. It's just like, every day, it just doesn't stop. And it's exciting, though. And I think I'm exhausted and, deflated a lot of, some of the times. But I get such an exhilaration out of it when something goes right. Like today, I talked to 2 new doctors who want to work with us. And I'm like, okay, it's work. And, something else good happens, and it's almost like an addictive quality.
You're swimming in a sea of dopamine.
I think it is. I mean, it's a roller coaster, but I feel like we're pushing this new company, and the customers, the vendors are supporting us like a lot.
Awesome.
Luckily, I've made some very good connections with like our employees and all of that. And like, it's just so much, especially because I'm also helping with him closing down the first company, like going to meet with the business lawyers, and I'm sort of advising him on, the best ways to close this or that out and how to handle it. It's just like, it's a lot. And then I get home by 6. And then it's, as you guys know, when you get home and you've got small children, and it's another job. And then I have to flip the switch, and I have to be daddy, and I have to do the dishes and the laundry and whatever else. And
could you have managed this if you were high still?
No way in hell.
Right.
I mean, and I was thinking about that because I thought to myself, wow, if I didn't drink or use through what I've just been through, I'm doing okay, but I'm not bulletproof, but that was a serious test, and part of that was being open with everybody I worked with, and that, you don't want me to drink. When someone offered me a drink, I think it was like, oh, we should have a drink. And I said, you don't want me to drink, He's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm like, yeah, you don't want that. And it's been crazy. It's been extremely, and it's consuming my whole consciousness, you know? And, but
can I just say,
please.
That's a huge move. I had not heard of it. So people on the Discord, give Nat a little license for not being that active right now.
I'm so sorry.
But that's bold. Congratulations. Yeah. And do you worry at all about whether you're overextending? And
constantly. I'm constantly worried that there's just not enough. I say there's not enough time. I don't have enough hands. There's not enough days. But, what I do is every day I have a whiteboard. That's one thing. As soon as I get a thought in my head of something, oh, yeah, I've got to pay that guy. I've got to do this. I just write it on the whiteboard. And then later I come around. I'm like, oh, yeah, that, and that. I definitely feel like I'm completely overextended. And, by the time I get to do Sunday school on Sundays, I'm like, oh, I got to prepare a lesson because this year it's just me in the classroom. So now I have to it's not a serious lesson, but
are you the only Sunday school teacher
for first and I think it's through first to third grade or second and third grade. So I have a curriculum. They gave me a curriculum. So
when do you find time to take a shit?
I just go in my pants. And then there's everything else in life. I need my blood pressure medication, so I've got to get to a doctor. And when am I going to do that?
Don't put that stuff off.
I'm just
you can't do any of the other stuff if you're dead.
I know. And I want to do my podcast, podcast, every single week. The good news is I feel like, at least now that we're going to shed the corporate shadow of the previous management, which is just poison. I mean, poison. And it's just going to feel so good to move, just a new start. But the move is going to be, it is very tricky. One of the real boring things, I'm not going to lose listeners about this, but changing to another corporate email server. Oh, just getting it's like the whole thing. And it's just, but
that's
crazy.
The boring part. But what about the people part? Are there, and you don't have to share, but I imagine there's a little bit of a shakeup.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we finally decided that we got to cut this off right now, I had to let about 4 people go who I had brought on a few months before because I was like, if we're going to make this work, I need, help, and I need people to be doing the billing, collecting, to help me with this and that. And after a couple months of that, we just couldn't get there fast enough. It's the timing, maybe in another year, we could have, but we didn't have a giant loan anymore.
You don't have the runway to do a year.
And I felt awful about that. I hate letting people go, and it's just the worst. It's the worst feeling. But, once we did it, I had this amazing relief, okay, now we have a chance.
Yeah.
And not only that, I'm going to be an owner in this next situation, and pretty much the owner, but I'll have a partner or something. I'm thinking about working with this neurologist. In any case, there's hope, and so I have to believe that my life will not be like this permanently.
I mean, aren't these better problems to have than the ones you had like 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, I've been saying to myself, man, I wish my only problem was don't use or do drugs.
Yeah.
Because for me, and I think for all of us here and a lot of people, for a good period of time, and as it should be, your number one focus is just to not use, just
That's
to stay sober. No, and I did that for so many years. It's just, I miss that problem.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I miss my life being so simple that the big thing to do was just don't drink today.
Yeah.
I would love that, but it wasn't, this is the next phase in life. This is what I've been avoiding by drinking and using.
Right.
I've been avoiding really becoming an adult and taking responsibility for my life. And
well, what do they say when you get sober? All you get back is your life, right?
Yeah. So that's the situation, and I think we're headed in a very positive direction. I just have to keep my energy up. That's the thing, and it's a lot of coffee and taking care of myself, and I meditate a couple times, like 30 seconds of meditation I do. Yeah.
Bite-sized chunks.
I do that. Yeah,
Yes.
like today, there's too many things are happening at once. I'm on the phone. There's an email, the secretary. No, someone's on the phone for you. Oh, you forgot to do this. It's just, I just take a breath. Just like that. And then it helps.
Yeah.
It's better than taking a drink.
Right.
So I've learned a lot about myself for sure. And a lot about independent medical exams.
Yeah, it's fascinating world.
Super exciting.
Yes.
So
Just
thanks for
no.
asking. Yeah, so I'm really sorry. I talked to my brother and my parents today because they've been trying to get me on the phone for, like weeks. And I just don't have the time. Like when they call me, I'm putting one kid to bed or making the other one do homework. And by the time I have a minute, it's time for me to sleep, and, well, I feel like I'm accomplishing stuff, but I'm so stretched out,
Well, I'm glad you made it here today.
Yeah. Sorry I didn't breathe and I just spoke for like 10 minutes.
No, that's
just I got to get it out.
You have to get it out. I could tell it was stuck in there like a piece of underdone potato.
Yeah, so
Good share.
Yes, good share. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Was that experience, strength, and hope?
Yes,
I gave the hope at the end. I just do it naturally.
Yes, you're a hopeful guy.
So thanks for asking.
You're not a pessimist. I'll say that about.
I'm a perpetual optimist.
You are,
and that's kind of my job too, is to constantly be making people. Because when I walk in the door, I have to put a good face on, and so because they're looking to me to know what I'm doing, or at least to be confident that what we're doing is going to be the right thing and we're going to be okay.
The fact that you think about that is amazing because there's so many sociopaths that are in upper echelons of management that really delight in torturing other people.
Yeah,
and you are definitely not that person. You're not taking your personal issues out on the people who work with you.
Not at all. And it's just not me. And I like it but it's also a lot of emotional energy.
Yeah,
to be giving out. But this is the path I have chosen.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
It's your karma, man.
I should have been a therapist,
Yeah. Speaking of which, how are you doing, Grant?
What was the segue from the I should have been a therapist?
Yes.
I'm doing well. So, and I was just thinking when you were saying, Nat, that you wished you were back in that simpler time, I was pretty close on my walk last night to the sober living house that I was in, where I was unemployed and I had nothing but time and I had no nostalgia for that period because all I wanted was something better. So I just keep that in mind when I'm busy these days.
Yeah, it's good to keep that perspective.
Yeah.
So you recently celebrated 2 years of sobriety, Grant?
I did, August 10th.
August 10th, which coincidentally is the day after Jerry Garcia's birthday. And you've been, when you sent us a couple of things that you wanted to talk about, one of the things was a reflection on the fact that you've now lived as long as Jerry Garcia. And that resonated with me because when I turned 53, I had the same sort of thought journey about, how I got there and how I'm lucky that I managed to get my shit together and didn't end up like old Jerry. But you also wrote a longer piece about that.
Yeah, I've now scaled back on Sober Lining's playbook a little bit, and instead of 2 email blasts a month, I do 1. But I decided that's what I was reflecting on. I don't think about Jerry Garcia all that much. I was never a huge Deadhead. Maybe went to 12 shows. But 1995, August 9th, the day he died, I was on a bike ride with a friend, and we were, longest bike ride I was ever on. We were going down the Oregon and California coast, about a day from home. It was really hot. We got to a campground. We had no food except for a guy gave us a can of beer and 2 raw hot dogs that we split. And my friend had a radio, and we had been hearing, I don't know, somehow that day we heard that Jerry had died. And so we listened to the radio, and we could just hear about it. And at the time, I was 26 and a half, and he was 53. So I was exactly half his age. And I thought he was an old man, so it didn't have a lot of relevance for me. But this year, somehow I thought about that again. I'm 53. He was 53. And so I can no longer see that as old man unless I would consider myself an old man. But also in August, Anne Heche died. She was 53. She's got, her oldest is about the age of my kids. And I just, I feel pretty good in sobriety. And I hadn't thought about kind of the tenuous nature of it. And, I don't white knuckle it every day. And I kind of cringe when I hear people say, we'll see what tomorrow brings, and I'm just going to hope I get through today, because that sounds like an awful way to live. But I started to think about it. What makes a difference between Anne Heche, who struggled, and Jerry Garcia, who struggled, and both of them didn't live to 54, and I fully plan to live past that. And I don't know. I'm not, when I wrote that, I think I was a little more struggling with it than I am now. And I wrote in that piece, and again, I'm not a scuba diver, but I think I've hit this kind of neutral buoyancy place where things aren't pushing and pulling me all the time. But like a diver, I recognize there's always dangers. So you got to have the buddy system. That's you guys.
Absolutely.
RMA network and meetings I go to. And then the tools, extra equipment that I don't necessarily use every day, but they're there if I need them, is the meditation, the reading, exercise, all of that. So not so much thinking about it as much as when I was writing. So I'm feeling pretty good today.
I'll just issue a quick correction. I said that Jerry's birthday was the 9th. That was actually the day he died. His birthday is the 1st, August 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was just 53.
I don't want people to write.
It's amazing.
Well, the Deadheads call the time between his birthday and his death day, which were both in August, as the days between, which is also the name of a Dead song. It's very involved.
Interesting. I was always worried about 27. When we were growing up, it was the 27 Club. And
Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Pigpen from the Grateful Dead, Kurt Cobain.
And there's more. I just can't remember. But I didn't plan on living past 30.
What's her name? From England.
England lady.
The one who died.
The Queen of England. She was 96. Oh, the Queen of England didn't drink that much.
No.
Maybe
Amy Winehouse.
Rehab.
I was kidding.
Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse.
Yeah. But it's interesting, that one day at a time thing, right? Because, I remember when we started this podcast, I have a distinct memory of saying to myself, there's not a lot of stuff that I really like from AA, but I do like the one day at a time thing. But the longer I get from the last time I had a drink, the less I like that one day at a time thing. I liked it in the beginning because it was helpful to me,
But you evolved as a recovering person.
I just find that now that if you're just living in this state of uncertainty, like, maybe tomorrow I'll have a drink, but today I won't. It kind of leaves the door open that tomorrow maybe you will.
But it's easy from where we're standing to kind of Monday night quarterback it and say, but when I think back.
That's what I'm saying. Like in the beginning, it was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was an hour at a time.
But it's good to adjust that, as your recovery grows. You can adjust how just the same way I don't go to a meeting every day anymore, because we're evolving with but the trick is not for me, not to get too relaxed and to get too confident or to depend too much on things like work and staying busy to keep my mind off of drinking and using. So
it's easy to get complacent though. It really is because, we haven't done one of these in 3 weeks.
I know, and this is I need this.
I was thinking, like, what if we get to the point where we're just so busy that we can't do it? And I started thinking, like, man, I don't like thinking down that road, because if all of this is gone, if all of my connection, to like the sobriety world, the universe, the struggle, the people who are struggling, Like, what's going to happen to me? I just don't have that. And, which also sort of flies in the face of this conceptualization that I have that you can be cured from this, right? That it's not a continual, ongoing process forever.
Yeah, so this is fear.
But I guess if you look at recovery with a small r as something by itself, you can recover from the desire to use alcohol or drugs. But recovery with a capital R is just basically your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the bigger stuff that we all start to get to once we've got some space from the using.
Because I don't want to recover the person that I used to be. I want to become somebody else. The person that I used to be was the one that got fucked up all the time.
It's so funny you said that. I was thinking that the other day. Someone said, or I think it was my mother. She said something like, "Oh, you're finally back to you." And I said, "Ma, I am nothing like I used to be. Like this is much, much better." I said, "I know, maybe she's thinking of me at 7, but that same thing. Like I don't. Yeah, it's a good point. I don't want to recover that person. I want to be a better person, a new person. And
maybe instead of recovering the person you used to be, you're uncovering the person you're supposed to be.
Boom.
You can be.
That was good.
It's uncovery.
Uncovery. I love it.
Let's trademark that.
I like that.
Got a lawyer in the room. Yep.
By the URL.
Get my lawyer on the phone.
So we've been talking back and forth with the Soberlink folks about doing some stuff with them, and they sent us a little agreement to sign. And I wasn't sure if we were supposed to read the copy this week or not. So,
should we? No, it's not October.
It's not
October. Said before it was October starting.
Yeah, we don't want to give any freebies. We don't want any freebies.
I mean, now that we have, what we'll lead up to it. We have a guest who has had firsthand experience with this product.
That's why it's perfect that he's here to talk about it, because I just think when we were first speaking with them, Grant introduced them to us. I thought to myself, wow, this is actually a great topic because it's self-binding. It's actually a really, really cool technology. And we learned about it when Grant was early on in his recovery. Mm-hmm. He was using Soberlink, or I'll let you tell us what you were using Soberlink for, but it was really interesting.
First, I want you to explain the concept of self-binding for people that don't remember that episode. It comes from Maya Salovitz's book, right?
Yeah.
Anna
Lemke. Sorry. I always get those two mixed up. Which is the one that did Coke with Jerry Garcia?
That was Maya.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Anna's the Stanford professor. Maya's journalist and author.
And she'll be at DopeyCon, I think.
Hey, will she?
I've heard that, yeah.
And I'm going to get down there. So self-binding is like you could picture it like you're putting on guardrails to use. So like you're doing things that will make it impossible for, like a self-binding technique would be Soberlink, but it's like you put the blower in your car. Mm-hmm. That's a way to prevent yourself from driving drunk.
So it's like if you freeze your credit card in a block of ice and put it in the freezer so you don't use it.
Self-binding.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is kind of like that, and that's how you were using it, I think, right?
What is Soberlink?
Yeah. So Soberlink is I'm not a spokesperson for Soberlink. It's going to sound like I am.
It's a device, though, right?
But it's a little device. It's about the size of a cell phone, maybe a little fatter, a little shorter, and it's a breathalyzer. But what it does is it connects via Bluetooth with your phone, and it sets up reminders for when you set it by contract, how often you're going to be tested, who the results are going to go to. You get a reminder, you blow into it. I've tested it with my daughter once. It's got facial recognition. So you can't have somebody else blowing in there. It detects if it's not human breath. So you blow into it.
You can't make the cat blow into it.
They know alcoholics, man.
Wow.
They must really know me.
They got us. And the results go to you and whoever you designate. So it's used sometimes in institutional settings, in treatment facilities will use it. I got it because it was suggested to me by my wife that I get one of those interlock devices for my car. And I thought,
I had one of those.
If I get back to the work world and I go out to lunch with somebody, that's the last thing I want to do. It's not the greatest conversation starter.
Sure.
I did the research. There's a couple out there, but to me, based on the features and stuff, the Soberlink just sort of seemed like the gold standard. So, I used it for 2 years and I had 3 tests a day. The default or the recommended is, or I said, I had 3 tests. The default is 2 tests a day, but I did it. I was kind of I was an all day drinker. So I did it for morning, 7, noon, and 9 PM. And it was, I say, and you can, maybe I'll give you the link to the testimonial that I did recently. You can put that in the show notes. But I say in that, and it's true, that it was a way I needed some help getting distance between me and alcohol. And Soberlink was the way to do it. Because if I ever had any thoughts that, maybe this was the time I was going to break down, I was really motivated by not having my family knew that I blew a dirty test in the Soberlink device. So it really worked for me. Comes with a cost. It's not for everybody because of that. And you got to be motivated that, if you don't care what others think around you, then it's not going to work. But for me, it was a great motivator, and it's pretty discreet. Now I do sound like a spokesperson. You can bring it into work. Nobody has to know.
I'm trying to make this not sound like a commercial because I'm just kind of curious at this point because we haven't signed anything. It's like, I'm just, and like last week or the week before, I saw something on the news where they've been introducing, a couple of senators have been introducing this idea that all new cars sold in the U.S. should have an interlock device.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
It sounds a little too intrusive, but it makes sense. Like, you shouldn't be able to, but like, I don't know.
But that got me to thinking, like, you could probably cure the drunk driving problem. Well, that's a loaded statement. You could probably seriously address drunk driving by just enforcing the existing laws, because any bar that you have to drive to, when you drive away from the bar, you're going to be drunk. Yeah. So if the cops want to just...
they do that sometimes,
right?
Really, don't they have like a drunk trap?
Every bar on Long Island.
Yeah.
You could just have a cop sitting outside the bar.
Well, yeah.
I'm seeing an Uber-like service where, this is going to sound dirty, but I'm the designated blower. Start your car.
Right. Well, I guess if you're in an Uber, you probably don't. Well, you know what? I have had some
parallel to Uber. You can call me. I'll come over and blow in your interlock device.
Ooh, California.
Start you up.
I've had some Uber drivers recently that probably should have had an interlock device on their
really?
Their car. Yeah.
And that device, by the way, I had one called Intoxilock that was mandated. Yeah, that's the brand. It was Intox with an X, a lock. And it would go off while you were driving, too. So you'd have to blow it.
Yes. And
then I'd be on the highway, and it would be like, beep, 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 beep. I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm a horrible driver to begin with, so I'm reaching for the thing. I'm like, it's just. And one time I had a new job or something, and I had to drive my my boss somewhere, and I had to blow in it. It was like I couldn't get away from it. It was just like, yep, I just did it, and then I pretended like but it's very embarrassing. I was always ashamed that one of my kids' friends would see it, or when I would go somewhere. So it feels shameful. But this Soberlink sounds like it's way more like it's more discreet, right? You're not going to be found out.
You can keep it hidden. It comes with a hard little case, and you can, I worked in an office as well as at home, and I found in an office I could, shut a door in an office or go into a bathroom and nobody can, or even go out to the car in the parking lot.
And you were sharing it with your wife and stuff like that? Like you were using it to sort of make her feel better, I think you had said?
There's a couple things. One is it helped motivate me to stay away from drinking, but it also helped me regain the trust of my wife. So many years of dishonesty and keeping my stuff hidden, which is what I did.
Me too.
It really helped. And I actually had some fear when I went off, and I think I wrote to you about this when we were setting this up. In our recycle bin, my wife went out there the other morning or a couple weeks ago to throw something away, and it had been sitting out on the curb all night. And she said, "There's a beer bottle in the recycle bin."
Yeah, that's happened to me too.
It wasn't mine because I was the guy in my active drinking. I didn't throw it in our can. I threw it in the neighbor's can.
Right. Clearly, your neighbor's the alcoholic here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that same
and
problem.
It was beer, and I'm gluten free now.
Right.
So that's a whole other thing. We don't have to get into that unless you want. But
well, you got a diagnosis of celiac, I guess, and so that's like no gluten anymore.
Oh, that's legit. Like that's really serious.
I'm trying to get. I've read studies, and there's really, at least in the short term, no difference for people that have mild celiac in terms of. And I'm going to get probably, or you're going to get a reaction from me saying this, but, I think the jury's out on, do you have to go complete abstinence or not? If you look at the research. That said, you can just imagine there's a community around this who are worried about cross-contamination.
Yes.
And I'm not an expert, so don't take my word for anything.
Is there a harm reduction approach that you can take to the gluten-free thing? Maybe there's like, you try and do some self-binding. Do you like lock up the bread?
Half almond flour?
I have an appointment with a nutritionist to ask about all these details. But, there's parallels. I'm on a private Facebook group. I like this one better, but I'm on one that's all about gluten-free.
Oh, wow.
People get on there and they talk about their worries about going to an event like a wedding. Sounds very much like our group.
That's interesting.
And they feel very excited when they see a menu in some out-of-the-way place. I was in near Mount Rainier with my family in Washington not long ago, and we were at a little diner, and they had a whole gluten-free section, or you could substitute any one of their sandwiches with gluten-free bread. And I thought, that's just cool. For me.
Yeah.
It's nice. But the difference is I never need a pizza. I didn't self-medicate with food. Now some people do, and food can certainly be an addiction, but
definitely
it's a different thing for me to give up gluten than it was to give up alcohol.
Yeah. I my late wife's cousin had a celiac diagnosis, and I didn't know about it. And we were down at parents' farm for this thing, and there was an extra toaster there, and I put my bread, and I toasted my bread in there, and holy shit,
cross contamination.
Yeah, man, she freaked out on me,
Wow.
and I, this is back before everybody was gluten free and whatever, and I'd never heard of celiac disease, and I apologized profusely because I had no idea that I but then she couldn't have bread she couldn't use the toaster the rest of the weekend. I felt terrible about that.
I mean, that's interesting, the parallels, because we've been talking about, I think we talked about this last week, the parallels between all addiction, and that there are so many of these parallels. Like the consequences are different, but a lot of the things that we had to do to stop using and all of that applies. I use it for quitting vaping. It's the same kind of things with, the gluten. So it's really like just trying to like grow and not do something you actually want to do because it's bad for you. I think that's just sort of, it seems to be universal.
Yeah. So how is it not having
how do you feel?
Bread?
I feel no different, except I have lost weight. And that's because all this stuff that I would snack on normally is out of bounds for me right now.
You can fit into your wedding dress.
I didn't really have symptoms before. I had a family history of it, and I went to a wedding in Iowa, and somebody mentioned it to me, and I thought, kind of on a whim, I'll get tested, not thinking, what am I going to do if it's positive? And so, I got tested because they mentioned the symptoms. GI stuff. It's never fun to talk about what the symptoms.
I'm lactose intolerant.
And I'm never sure what's normal and what's not. So I gave it a try. I haven't noticed any difference, but it's only been a couple months. And I know with alcohol, I keep on discovering new layers of how things are different physically and psychologically. So I know, keep at it.
All right.
Moving on from the middle-aged men health-ish part of the show.
Three dope dads, moving on.
We just lost a whole bunch of people there.
I'm kind of curious if you could enlighten us on the work you've been doing with Shatterproof lately.
Yeah, so I think I told you, in one more thing on Soberlink, I think every time I've come on your show now, I've mentioned Soberlink in one way or another.
Yeah, they owe us back advertising. We should retroactively.
I'm just saying, mention that to them. But, I think I told you last year when I came on that I had started volunteering for an organization called Shatterproof. It's a national nonprofit. They do a lot of advocacy and education around improving the quality of addiction treatment, reducing stigma. But I heard their founder and CEO on a podcast, and he was talking about one of their initiatives. It's an online treatment locator. And when I went to get treatment, well, at least even before I went to get treatment, I thought the options were AA meetings or a 28-day stay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've seen the movie 28 Days with Sandra Bullock. I didn't know about outpatient treatment. I didn't know any of that. So this locator actually has an assessment that you can take, and it will pop up with results. And more than likely, it's going to suggest outpatient treatment, which I didn't even know existed. So there's an educational component to it. Anyone can check it out. It's called treatmentatlas.org is the URL. But it's got treatment providers in 10 states right now where I'm working to add California treatment providers to it. But it's a really robust search engine where you can look by location, by the payment type, or if you're on Medicaid, or whether you have private insurance and which insurance that is, services they provide. There's also measures of quality built into it. So we worked with experts around the country to look at what are the best practices, fast access to treatment, medication for opioid and alcohol use disorder. And so we built those quality measures into the data that providers give to us. And so we can somebody can do a side-by-side comparison. It's kind of like a financial search engine where you're looking at different retirement plans. You can put 3 up on the page side-by-side and compare them. You can also do patient reviews. And we have sort of a natural language process to built in and some other checks, including some human checks to make sure that they're real reviews and not just sort of rants from the same person. But
so
it's a great tool.
Is this a new thing? Are there other online directories? I mean, what was the idea behind creating this one?
Yeah, so there definitely are. SAMHSA, the federal administration that oversees mental and health and substance use issues, they have a national treatment locator. It doesn't have quality measures built into it, and there have been some articles recently that it's not updated frequently. There's definitely some local ones, and there's other treatment locators, but this is unique. It's free. It's free for providers to sign up and provide their information and be on there. And it's got the assessment tool. There's no others that I've seen out there that have ASAM blessed, American Society of Addiction Medicine blessed assessment that somebody can take to guide them, to match them to the right treatment.
Wow.
And it's just, you can filter in so many ways, not just by location, but by what your needs are. And then it also, part of the sustainability, I think, is it provides data to the providers so they can compare how they are against their peers, but also state and local governments can look so they can geographically see how services are distributed and where the gaps are. So we're trying to make it useful in a lot of ways so that we will survive, people will need it and find it useful. So
it's interesting. It almost reminds me of like a travel rating site like TripAdvisor or something, so you guys don't have the manpower probably to go out and visit these facilities, right? So most of the data on there is self-reported by the facilities themselves, yes? Is there
and that's the way it would have to be. Even
quality control.
Go ahead.
Yeah, is there any so you're not making a qualitative value judgment about whether it's a good place or not a good place. It's just you're just providing the information and a review if somebody decides to post a review.
Well, we do. I mean, the one thing about quality is we require providers to answer questions that roll up into our quality measures. Do you offer treatment quickly, even refer out if you can't have space? Do you offer medications? But you're right. It's all self-reported. But we have a number of ways to ensure validity as much as we can. And one is that, well, first of all, somebody in a leadership position, like ideally the CEO of each facility, has to attest to the fact that the data is accurate. We work with the licensing bodies in the states where we have providers so we can check the data they give us against the licensing data they have. The survey itself that we use has logic built into it to make sure that the responses are consistent. And then we do an annual update, which is just another check to make sure that the data is accurate. And we'll follow up if we see on a website that something looks different than on their website than the information they give us. We'll follow up until we get that resolved.
How long until you think it goes countrywide?
I don't have any predictions on that right now. We are moving at a fast pace. We started with a pilot a couple of years ago in 6 states. We're now in 10, once we have 11, we're going to cover about 43% of the population in the U.S., and we have some agreements with other states now. And my hope is that there will be a tipping point where people will see, we already hear it at conferences from providers who say, we've got a facility in that state, but we'd like to add our facilities in this state, but we aren't there yet. And so I would, I would hope that within the next 5 years or so, we'll be pretty much nationwide.
Super.
It's so great that you're getting to work, with Shatterproof, because I remember when you were like volunteering, and to me it sounded like, wow, that could be a really cool career, for Grant, but I didn't think, or I didn't know that maybe that could be, could move on. And I think it's so cool. Like, it sounds like a dream job for somebody who, like us, who's in recovery and is thinking about it, and it gives you so many different. It just sounds great. It's like you have an opportunity to help, to give back. It's a job. You're working with other people in recovery. You're, pushing the cause forward. It just sounds great.
Yeah, I'm having a ball. And sometimes I look and think, this is just the strangest thing. I have no background. I mean, a little bit in health, but not really in public health and certainly not addiction. And, is this just like a new obsession? And I sort of pretended to be expert on this stuff. And I'm not, just to anyone listening, I'm not an expert on addiction or treatment or recovery. But I play one on a podcast.
Yes, us too.
And
fake it till you make it.
But yeah, it was like, it's almost like the thing that I always thought was bunk about manifest a new career. But I started doing this stuff. I did a little counseling. I did the website. I got involved with your Facebook community, and then volunteered for Shatterproof. And when they started moving into California, that's when I decided, I'm ready for a career change. And so it's great. I wake up every day just happy about what I'm doing.
Oh, that's man. Fantastic. So happy for you, Grant.
Give us that URL again, so if people want to reach out and find it.
Yeah, thanks. It's treatmentatlas.org.
Super.
Or you can go to shatterproof.org and read all about the things that Shatterproof does.
Awesome. We will throw a link in the show notes so you folks.
And I should mention I'm not here in an official capacity today, but
neither are we.
I did run it by our folks.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
Who asked about your numbers?
Yeah. Well, if Shatterproof wants to advertise, let us know.
We're a nonprofit. We have a pretty lean budget, so we're hoping that you all will, or maybe I'll write to Dopey.
We would always share that information for free.
Yeah, or the CEO guy sounds interesting. Yeah. He goes on podcasts, and maybe that would be a good appearance.
So what did you say? The CEO?
Yeah, you were talking about he was on a podcast.
He's actually got a very compelling story as a parent and somebody in recovery. He lost a son who struggled with addiction. So I was at a conference in Long Beach earlier in August, and he came and gave the keynote, and myself included, there were people in tears. So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've come to that point.
Which point?
We've come to that point in the show where we're going.
Time to boot the guest.
No. Actually,
sticking with us.
If you have a few minutes, I would love it if you could stick around for recovery in the news.
Yeah, all right. Recovery in the news. Recovery in the news. Recovery. Motherfucker. Yeah. Wow, I haven't done that in a while. Recovery in the news.
Can you hear the music, Grant, or does it just seem like he's chatting overnight?
I can.
Okay, all right.
Oh, good. You don't want to hear this a cappella. It's not good.
Are you asking because I came in too early with the motherfucker?
No. I'm curious because if I use the audio from here, like I've used the audio before from the camera and it doesn't pick up anything off the board. So when you post the video, it's basically him doing that without any music. It's hilarious.
It's great. You can hear me hit the falsetto, It's not good.
So, I wanted you to stick around for Recovery in the News because today's Recovery in the News article comes from Forbes, and I actually picked it off Sober Lining's Playbook, which I should have had you talk a little bit about that, actually.
Well, now I'm going to have to go back to that and see if I can find it. But go ahead, jog my memory.
Okay, so this article came from September 23rd, Forbes.com. White House announces $15 billion for worsening opioid crisis. Ring any bells?
Throwing more money.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It does. You've probably read it more thoroughly more recently. I go through a lot of articles every week. So what were you going to ask or say about it?
Well, the White House on Friday, I guess this is last Friday, announced $1.5 billion in funding to tackle the nation's opioid epidemic, a major health crisis, this we know, that reached record levels during the COVID-19 pandemic, exacted an enormous economic and human toll, and continues to worsen despite the efforts of activist government and healthcare providers. I thought that $1.5 billion in funding was a very interesting amount of money, considering that it's not even a tenth of the money that the Sacklers made from in profits from selling opioids.
Well, you have to keep in mind it's on top of what they've committed for this year already. So it's an addition.
Yes.
I'd like to know how this funding is being dispersed,
Which
the 1.5 billion, where does it go? What do they do?
It's going to expanding access to recovery support services.
But what does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Alone?
And treatment for substance abuse disorders. But $12 million of it is going to law enforcement agencies, which adds to $275 million of funding for law enforcement agencies announced in April that will help officials prevent overdoses, take down trafficking operations, and tackle violent crime associated with drugs.
Oy vey.
So, I mean, obviously it's difficult to, in an article that's posted on the Forbes website on the internet, to get down into the granular level of where this money is going. But it just seems like a lot of bromides are coming out of the White House in terms of where this money is going.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't have really much of a background in how the federal government spends its money to fight the opioid crisis. Grant, do you have any idea where this money goes?
What are they doing?
I mean, I've been an observer for the last couple of years, but I much more track the state of California, and I find it difficult to track federal legislation and federal spending from the administration. But we're never going to throw money at the opioid or some other drug crisis without also putting it in law enforcement.
Right.
It's just a reality. So
right.
Look at percentages, and at least at that 1.5 billion, 12 million is not huge. But, I've talked before that I think that a lot of people, observers have seen this, that the fentanyl scare and a lot of the misinformation has led to kind of a regurgitation of the way that we crack down on crack.
Right.
I mean, there's a different story about overdoses that maybe gets into the middle class, but maybe more sympathy for the victim this time around.
Yeah.
But certainly just as much vitriol for the seller, which I sometimes think there's not that much difference.
Yeah, they don't
selling
care.
is often a part of drug use.
Well, the victim is a little whiter this time.
Well, I was about to just say that. I think we were all thinking that.
But the reality is not. It disproportionately hits Black and brown people. In fact, I think there's an article in here saying that overdose deaths are disproportionately hitting American Indians and African Americans. I think it's in the research study section. But you hear the narrative about the the suburban kid
until the captain of the football team tries a little cocaine at a party and it's fentanyl and he drops dead. Nobody was batting an eyelash.
Well, I think the government's approach to this epidemic varied distinctly from the way it approached the crack epidemic in the 80s, because this epidemic started with middle class white Americans in the South who were overprescribed drugs, and it was considered somehow less to blame for their own problem than African Americans.
Comes from
in the
a
inner
good
city,
family.
So I don't know. I think there's probably a little racism inherent in the way that this is being looked at, but I mean, I guess the proof's in the pudding, right? Like, how is that money allocated to racial justice issues in the treatment of this problem, from neighborhood to neighborhood? And that I don't know,
I would say the one thing that's kind of refreshing, and some people will have a more cynical take and think I'm too optimistic about this, but if you read Biden's administration's what he wants to do with the funding stuff he came out with at the beginning of the year, there's much more, and it's more than just a nod to harm reduction, to fentanyl test strips and distribution of naloxone to reverse overdoses. That's definitely a part of it. And they have extended during the COVID crisis, which I guess we're still in. Yeah. They've allowed prescriptions of buprenorphine, medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder through telemedicine.
Yes.
That may end, so people are watching that. But
that's great.
There's also a federal proposal right now it made it through the House. It's part of a bigger mental health package with the Senate to basically remove barriers to prescribing buprenorphine. There's a lot of hoops that doctors have to jump through.
It's a nightmare. I went through this, and even from where I was at, for me to get prescribed Suboxone, which is buprenorphine, it was very, very difficult. And the doctors have to have a special extra certification or a license.
X-waiver. Yeah.
Right. And they're back then, they treated me like a criminal. And I just remember feeling like, I don't know, like I was doing something wrong when I was going to them saying, you know what, guys, I'd really like to, I don't want to relapse. I've heard this is very helpful. I know you prescribe it. And they would give me those packets, the Suboxone packets. And the doctor would hand me a week's worth only at a time. And I had to return the packages that I opened to prove that I didn't sell them or something. It was just like this feeling of, I'm a criminal. I'm like a bad person asking for something I don't deserve.
Really, it's just medication to help you get better.
And it's so fucked up. So to hear that, I mean, if I could
to get the oxy than it is to get the medicine to get you off the addiction.
Yeah, your friend Sam around the corner, he's got it, for whatever. So if it were as available or easier to get as it is today with the telemedicine, who knows how many people's lives would be saved, if they had, because that is just a miracle drug. And there's so much animosity in recovery. I don't know if it's so much anymore, but people it's just another drug type of thing. And it's just such ignorance, and yes, people can abuse it. I mean, you could abuse anything pretty much, but to treat it like a street drug, even if you can buy it on the street, and that's what they say, they buy it from their dealers. I'm like, you know what though, you could sell lisinopril on the street, but it still makes it good blood pressure medication.
Any, I think if you look at the statistics, any harm reduction modality that's been put into practice has saved lives. Yeah, whether it's this medication, whether it's safe injection sites, whether
Yeah, I've come around to that. I think early on I was more against it when I was kind of being indoctrinated with, conservative 12-step early on. And I've really, as you know, come around to it because I went through it. I've seen it work and I've seen what fails. And then we're looking at the statistics and we're talking about it. And it really just looks like it's a no-brainer. Yeah. To encourage the harm reduction and the needle exchanges. That's a thing that's very volatile, the way people are, discussing it, and some people are against it. But the Alan on Patreon on the Discord, he's always he'll post an article on how many people didn't overdose.
It's hundreds of people that have been saved since they opened these sites in New York City.
New York City.
Yeah.
What more do you need to know?
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if there was and maybe there is, you kind of gently steer people towards an off-ramp.
Yeah. It's a point of contact.
It is a point of contact.
You exchange your needles, and then they hand you a pamphlet. Hey, did you know we've got a therapist that you can talk to? Did you hear, Grant, about is it a clean needle vending machine, or was that just something
I've heard of vending machines that have all sorts of, Chicago, Narcan. Maybe Philadelphia, that have certainly naloxone in it. I don't know about clean needles, but certainly that would fit. And
that would be great.
Public health departments have been starting those up.
Yeah, and just having access and making a shame-free way to get help, I think, is really important.
Abstinence is great, but if you're dead, you can't recover. You can't get well.
That's rock bottom.
That's not mine. I Rehab Confidential, which is no longer going right now.
Yeah, that's sad. I really like that show.
Joe Trank, Joe Trank often said that.
Joe is actually working with who's the woman who used to live in Oyster Bay?
Vic Valley.
Yeah, Veronica Valley. Soberful.
Oh.
They're working
She
together.
was in Sacramento last spring. I actually ran into her and had her sign a book.
Yeah, I sold her a few pairs of cleats for her kids.
I'm the only one in this room that has not actually met her.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Anyway,
she's lovely.
Yeah, she really is.
He appeared on her podcast about a month ago, and they're trying to get a movie off the ground that will sort of burst the stigma of addiction, working on it from that angle.
We got to get them on the show.
Yeah.
I talked to Joe sort of on Facebook. I'm just like someone who comments on his things that he'll respond to occasionally, and I feel like he's talking directly to me. But so I have this pseudo rapport with him, and he's very direct with his opinions.
No,
but like it's very off-putting to people who disagree with him. But I appreciate the cutting through the bullshit the way that he does. And 99% of the time when he says something that people are pissed off about, I usually agree with him. You know, I would love to have him on the podcast. Joe, if you're listening, which you aren't, I would love to talk to you on the show. Maybe I'll just make a comment on his Facebook page. Come on my show. But he would be great to talk to. He's got such an interesting perspective.
Yeah,
he does. And he was in that movie, The Anonymous People.
Yes.
Right.
At least a couple of speaking parts, we'll say.
Yeah, his kids are brilliant, by the way. He posts pictures of his. This kid's a doctor. That one's So
yeah.
Congrats on that, Joe Schrank.
I'm just trying to pull up while we're here quickly to see if I can come up with the. No, I can't. All right, I'll post the link in the show notes to their project. They're looking to raise some money from crowdsourcing to get the movie.
Yeah,
so
I can't wait for that movie. Yeah, I'll reach out to him. Just the way I talked to him on Facebook. In a comment. Who knows?
Yeah, see if he wants to come on and talk about the movie. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, he's pretty responsive too. So it's pretty interesting. But did you know that 109,000 people have believed to have died from a drug overdose last year?
Yes,
that's according to CDC data. It's true. The figure, up nearly 15% from 2020, marks the first time overdose deaths have topped 100,000 in a calendar year. For a single 12-month period, that grim milestone was first reached during the period ending April 2021. Since then, the number of overdose deaths has not fallen below 100,000 for a 12-month period.
Very similar to the amount of people that die of alcohol every year.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
And this is a little bit of a plug. So in 21, it was 107,000, and Shatterproof had a generous match donation. So you put in $1, this family will put in $1. I cannot remember their name, unfortunately, but it was 107,000. And then when we reached that goal, they went up to 150, and we're at about 148,000 now. So if anybody wants to contribute a little money to that, go to shatterproof.org.
Yeah, do it.
I think no matter what, our donation stuff pops up right away, so you can't avoid it. So,
well, we'll donate as a podcast. We actually, we can officially donate, can't
Absolutely.
we? Yes, we're doing it.
It'll come off of our massive corporate profits.
I was going to say, right from your Soberlink earnings to...
it's literally tens of dollars.
It's tens of dollars.
Virtuous cycle.
All right, so that's really recovery in the news. We kind of beat that article.
We did. Okay, yeah. All right.
Never know what to do on the back end.
Yes, we do have a Tim Manal. You want to stick around for Tim Manal?
Yeah, stick around for Tim Manal.
Sure.
Take my nicotine out.
Love me some Bigfoot.
Week in Weird. Ghost child filmed at notoriously haunted hotel in Arkansas? That's a question.
Of course in Arkansas.
By who? Tim Banal. A spooky piece of footage circulating online appears to show a ghost child dash past the camera of a person staying in a notoriously haunted hotel in Arkansas. Posted on Reddit late last week, so you know it's legitimate. The eerie video was reportedly filmed at the Crescent Hotel and Spa in the city of Eureka Springs. Constructed in 1886, the building has long been said to be the home of a variety of spirits and has even...
Rye, gin, scotch...
has even been called America's most haunted hotel by many individuals. In the video, which we will post a link to in the show notes...
What, are you trying to kill me? There's a lot of links this week.
An unnamed woman films around her room and makes note of the site's haunted reputation, declaring that she and her friend, who is seen resting on a nearby bed, are looking at ghosts at the infamous site. Chillingly, It would seem that the pair did not have to wait too long or look very far for the spirits said to inhabit the building, as while the woman was talking, a mysterious form that bears a striking resemblance to a young child can be seen scurrying past the camera. Scurrying. When the woman filmed her friend seconds earlier, it appeared that the pair were the only people in the room, and she has no reaction to the youngster that just ran a few feet in front of her. Making the creepy scene all the more intriguing is that the child seems to be making no noise, which is rather incongruous with what one might expect to hear from a rambunctious tot dashing around a room. Alas, I love Tim Bedell. Alas, since the witnesses are unidentified, any additional circumstances surrounding the video are a mystery. That said, in light of the location of the scene and the odd manner in which the suspected child appears without any sound, many observers have suggested that the woman captured a genuine apparition at the haunted hotel. Skeptical viewers will, of course, argue that the ghost child is simply a real youngster that somehow went unseen earlier in the video.
Either by happenstance or by way of creating a well-crafted hoax.
Yes.
Why do you leave the well-crafted hoax part out?
I like to cut off, the end where they tell you what it really is, because I believe that children ghosts are the most frightening and disconcerting ghosts of all.
Definitely.
I can't argue.
I should have done the Nessie article. This one was kind of dry, but
I got nothing. Yeah. I thought maybe if I was here in the room, I would stay with it and pay attention more, but I tuned out.
Yeah, this was a bad one.
No offense.
I mean, I prefer Bigfoot, frankly.
Should we go for a Bigfoot story?
Yeah.
Not now.
Okay,
we'll
fine.
do it next week.
Yeah.
And that was a very boring Week in Weird. Well, that about does it for today.
It's time to go.
I know I had a great time. Did you?
It was ducky.
Did you guys have a great time?
I did.
Great. Thanks so much for listening. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter.
Places.
So tweet us at TwatYouTwit. Support your favorite show. Drop a 5-star review. Join our private Facebook group. Buy a t-shirt, or simply write and say hello. Join the Inner Sanctum at patreon.com/recovery in the Middle Ages to hang out with us and to hang out with Grant and all the awesome monksters on there. And finally, the best way to help the show is to share it with a friend. If you get something out of our show, please share the love and help grow the RMA movement. And as we say, non proficiat perfectum. What is it, Grant? It's
progress, not perfection.
Yes. See you next time. Thank you so much, Grant. It was great to see you.
Stay fresh.
It was great to be here.
bags.
Thanks.
Stay fresh, cheese bags. Good night.
Good night.
Man, I should have gotten a Bigfoot.
That's all right. Next time.
And